Welcome to Five Dive, the 5 minute deep dive into startup tactics with the experts. Today we have Shaan Patel from Prep Expert. Shaan, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. My name is Shaan Patel. I am the founder of Prep Expert SAT and ACT preparation. This is a company that offers 6-week online courses to students around the world who are preparing for the SAT and ACT examinations for college in the United States. We currently have 5 in-person locations around the United States, as well as tens of thousands of students taking our courses online. So on top of being the founder of this company, I am also the founder of a company that luckily got a deal with Mark Cuban on ABC's Shark Tank. So that was a very exciting piece of the company. And then finally, on top of being on Shark Tank as well, I am also currently in residency pursuing dermatology for medicine. So I've finished my medical school degree at the University of Southern California, my MBA at Yale University, and now I'm currently pursuing residency in dermatology. I'm not that busy.
It's insane, man. You're like a machine. And you know
Mhm.
what? I wanted to ask you this. If you could travel back in time, to when you started Prep Expert and you're balancing pre-med at the same time, what would be the biggest piece of advice? Because you're doing so much more now than you were then, but I'm sure then it was also pretty insane and hectic. What would be the biggest piece of advice you'd give yourself back then?
Yes, yeah. I think you bring up a really, really good point, especially for everyone listening out there around the concept of student entrepreneurship, right? Student entrepreneurship is something that was really difficult, I think, 20 years ago, but now it's so much easier with technology because you can get a lot of your work done remotely from any location in the world. So you don't have to necessarily be physically at a business. If I had to give a piece of advice, not only to myself as a pre-medical student who is starting a brand new company who had no idea about how to start a company, as well as the students or the student entrepreneurs out there that are listening and want to know, how can I run a business while being in school? It's really all about leveraging technology with your time management, right? So what I mean by that is, when I was in pre-med, I would, do my classes, do my studying, etc. for school, but then I would block out 2 to 3 hours of time after school, work on my business, and have very tangible goals set in order to get those items done. And it's really about time management, creating checklists, and leveraging technology in order to get your work done. Unlike school, for the school entrepreneurs are out there, or the student entrepreneurs, I should say, you know, uh, entrepreneurship is all on you. You're not going to get a syllabus from your professor that's going to ask you for certain deadlines and things like that. You have to create your own deadlines, create your own checklists, etc. So it's really about self-management and time management.
That's fantastic. So leveraging technology to manage time, manage goals, grow your business, and specifically managing that time outside of school as well. You mentioned before, like I've read a couple articles from you where you mentioned that you've envisioned your partnership with, Mark Cuban at Shark Tank. Could you tell me a little bit about that and how Mark has helped you grow your business and what you would tell entrepreneurs to look for from other investors and mentors?
Yeah, partnering with billionaire Mark Cuban on ABC's Shark Tank was absolutely game changing. We've now done 10x our revenue prior to Shark Tank after the show and working with Mark Cuban. Before the show, I think we were doing about $500,000 in revenue per year. Now we do about $5 million between our courses and licensed products per year. So really 10x'd it. done 10 million since the show. And, how has Mark helped? Well, it's really all about leveraging business development and business partnerships. So he's made a lot of key introductions in, taking it from a mom and pop type of small business to creating these large partnerships with, whether it's with schools, with school districts. And then the other side of it is really helping to optimize our digital marketing side, right? So that's a huge, huge thing. Digital marketing is really how the world works now. For whether you're a small business or even whether you sell, even if you don't sell products online, you've got to use digital marketing, and that's been absolutely crucial. In terms of advice for finding a good investor, finding a good mentor, really with an investor, it's all about how much control or how much control they want versus how much guidance they'll give, right? Mark's been absolutely crucial in that he gives me tons of freedom to operate the company as I see fit, but he gives a lot of guidance too. So it's balancing the guidance versus the control, because a lot of investors, you'll find, want too much control over management decisions and they don't give enough guidance. And so sometimes it's just finding that perfect person, that perfect investor or mentor that's going to give you the right amount of control with the right amount of guidance.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaan. And
Mm-hmm.
final question for you. What is the single piece of advice that you give to students or to the hard workers out there that are, they want to get into entrepreneurship, they've got that itch, but they're not sure how to jump in, not sure how to start?
Yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing about entrepreneurship is you have to be a expert, which means that you have to put in those 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell's that famous book, Outliers, those 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. Because in order to build a great business or to become an expert doctor or whatever it may be, whatever skill you want, you have to be an expert in the field. You cannot just go out and become a great entrepreneur starting with day one. But you can work at it and keep trying at it, and eventually you'll become an expert. But what I would suggest to all entrepreneurs out there is before you start a business in something that you're an expert at. If you're already an expert at something, that's a great business to start. I got a perfect score on my SAT, raised it from average to perfect. I was an expert at SAT preparation, so I started my business in that. I knew more about it than probably almost any other student out there. If you're going to start a business, make sure that you know more about what you're starting than anyone else out there to have that competitive advantage. And that's really the piece that so many entrepreneurs miss. They don't take the time to become an expert in their business or their field prior to starting it. If you're not that expert, you're going to get crushed by the competition. So, I would say before you start a business, become an expert. If you're an expert already at something, start a business in that. If you're not an expert, that's okay. You can become an expert at something. Just go ahead and educate yourself. Spend hundreds of hours learning a particular topic that you're interested in, and then go out and build that business after you've become an expert in that field. But if you go and try to do it in the reverse way, which is start a business and then try to learn it, you'll likely get burned. And that's why so many entrepreneurs fail, because they don't take the time to become an expert before starting their business.
That's awesome. That's really great. Thank you, Shaan. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, no. I think the biggest piece of advice I have for budding entrepreneurs is oftentimes you're an entrepreneur from the very beginning, whether you're like, back when you're a kid. Mark and I co-authored a book called How Any Kid Can Start a Business. And one of the big things we try to teach is, how to be an entrepreneur when you're a kid and early on. And if you find that when you were a kid, you were always trying to sell things, or you were doing great with those school catalogs, or for me, I was selling Pokemon cards and things like that. I knew that I was sort of born to be an entrepreneur entrepreneur. And some folks out there, you might be working in a day job right now, but if you really feel like you've always been an entrepreneur at heart, you've always tried to sell things, you've always tried to start your own things, you're probably an entrepreneur. And right now you may have a day job, and that's great. But spend that time to become an expert, and then build a business around that.
Awesome, Shaan. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on Five Dive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.